Hello, my friend, and welcome to the 365th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today we have Mr. Lance Tyson. You're in for a treat. I love some of the things he brought up, like LinkedIn ain't selling, and are you a PO? It's a funny acronym I had never heard. So we talk about donkeys. We talk about Sherpas, kind of some crazy things. So we're going to get into his book, Selling is an Away Game, Close Business and Compete in a Complex World. Previous episode was with Juliana Stan Campiano. She is an entrepreneur, an author. She focuses on how you build effective teams. I loved her story about how she ended up buying the company she was working for when she was 8 months pregnant. So you women are tough. I've seen my wife go through 10 pregnancies, 3 miscarriages. Tough. Probably 100 times tougher than us. But anyway, you are in for a treat. Next episode, 366, is with Mr. Todd Capone. So we're getting into Flossum, talking about transparent sales, understanding the buying brain. We get into the 4 levers of pricing. So we're on a roll. I've got a lot of episodes, so you're probably noticing I'm bringing these out a couple a week right now. Just had a good run of great people coming in. Also working on a sponsor, so I'll have more news for you on them. It's pertaining to sales and headhunting and how to find a great job. So a lot of things, never a dull moment. I've been talking about the change in the Make Every Sale group, going back to the original name of 30-Day Sales Growth. It's a $97 per month, no contract, access to all of the content in the 30-Day Sales Growth program. I'm going to give you access to the Make Every Sale content as I combine these. And it's the inspiration was how I got started. When I got started as a professional salesperson, now mind you, I'd already been making $100,000 a year for 7 or 8 years, but I was working too hard. I was that hustler, right? Show up early, stay late, grind, get it done. I had a family, still got a family, but I've been the sole breadwinner for 23 years. When I learned what it meant to be a professional salesperson, I made more money working a fraction of what I did. I remember I had a new VP of sales come on when I was with this startup. It was right when I started, really. It was around 2006. He came on board, and I had been with this company for a couple of years. This was a startup out of Austin. And he said, what you need to do is you need to be giving more presentations. And I remember saying, man, I haven't given a presentation in 18 months, and I'm one of only 3 salespeople out of like 33 in the world for this company, this startup. So I'm one of only 3 that made my quota last year. And it kind of set him back, right? Presentations don't make sales. Connecting with prospects, understanding their pain, getting them to understand that you understand their pain. When they know that you know their issues, they trust your recommendation. And I hope the recommendation you give them is legit, because I tell more people no than yes. Okay? But in business, obviously, if you're talking to the right people, then your solution should be the thing that helps them. But that's what I learned beginning in 2006, and that's what I teach in the program. And I've mentioned it before, you are probably not going to read the book I send you. You are probably not going to watch all the videos, read all the emails, do all the homework. I get it. That's why I do live calls. That's why I have a private group where you can ask your questions at any time, because you don't need more books. You don't need more videos. You need answers to your pressing questions right now. That's what you're going to get, because you can ask a question in the group. I'll be notified on my phone. If I'm not in the middle of something, I'll answer it. Others will answer it. On the weekly calls, I answer it. All right? That's where it's going to move the needle. It's what moved the needle for me when I got help from Steve He went above and beyond, let me talk to him a couple times, and they weren't long conversations. You know, small hinges swing big doors. He answered specific things for me, and things took off for me. That's what I want to offer to you, all right? 30daysalesgrowth.com. Invest in yourself. It's just $97 a month, no contract, no tricky upsells. You're going to grow your sales, all right? I guarantee it. 30daysalesgrowth.com. Now let's bring on our guest. Lance Tyson, all the way from Columbus, Ohio, author of Selling is an Away Game. Welcome to the Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
I'm good. I appreciate the invite.
So we were talking a little college football before I hit record. So now it's kind of making sense. Selling is an away game. So what is this? Close business and compete in a complex world. Man, do we still have to close sales? I thought like I would share a recipe or pictures of my dog on Instagram and people would just like me and send me money. Is that not a good approach?
Well, I mean, if you talk to most sales enablement organizations, they would tell you all you need to do is, send a couple emails out, connect with people on LinkedIn, you get her done at the end of the day. I posted not long ago something called LinkedIn Ain't Selling, and the amount of people that interact at that was interesting because we find so many people today just think that's what it's about. Like you connect on social media, and that's such a small part. That's nothing more than a phone was 20 years ago.
LinkedIn ain't selling. Whoo, I bet some people got their panties in a wad, huh?
No, it definitely caused some interesting thought process. I had a woman from a marketing automation company prospect me pretty hard for about 3 weeks, and she finally quoted one of my blogs, and so she flattered me enough to get me to talk to her, and so I'm talking to her. I finally get on the phone. She sets an appointment, and she kind of starts off with all these stats, talking about how prospecting's dead and cold calling's dead. And I said to her, "That's fair." I said, "Isn't it in your best interest to kind of say that, though?" And she goes, "Well, what do you mean?" I go, "Well, you guys are kind of writing the book right now to tell everybody that or cold calling's dead." And I said, "But all you did was cold call me to get me on the phone. You didn't use your automation to get in touch with me." But that's kind of the issue right now. That's right. People confuse all those activities for sales.
Whenever something is written that is dead, it's probably by somebody selling the alternative to that solution.
Well said. Well said. Very well said.
I throw the article out and the title out that CRMs are dead, and part of it is because I sell marketing automation software, but part of it is, the caveat or the subtitle is, standalone CRMs are dead.
Yep.
It's just a cloud in the sky. I mean, even HubSpot or Salesforce, they were early investors in HubSpot. Then Salesforce goes and buys ExactTarget, who had already bought Pardot, and HubSpot's like, maybe we should build a CRM as these guys encroach on our inbound marketing space. So, I mean, even Salesforce knows it's not enough just to have data in the sky. You got to take action on it.
There's no doubt. And I was liking it to this because you could have the greatest data in the world, but data rots. It's kind of like a banana, right? My wife buys the greenest bananas, but once you hang them on that piece of iron, they start getting yellow and dark. Yep. And data just goes bad. So you got to kind of work it. I agree. I definitely agree. These are just tools at any one time.
Bananas and entire packages of bread and hot dog buns do not go bad in my house because my dog will jump on the counter and eat the whole thing, peelings and all. Do you want a dog? I got one.
She's locked up right now, just in case she'd start barking.
It's the craziest dog, man. We built the doggy door, and she will get an entire bunch of bananas and eat the peelings and I think she just gets full. That's how we know. Like there'll be a couple peelings left. Like I've never seen.
What kind of dog is it?
A lab.
There you go.
Eats everything. But I digress. Well, salespeople eat everything too. They eat everything. They drink everything. So is all this technology, is it making salespeople soft and lazy?
I think this new crop of salespeople, the group of millennials, and I've trained thousands of millennials in the last few years. I think everybody's looking for a shortcut, and unfortunately, I think it makes.
Are we always though? Isn't
Yeah,
that a
no,
relatively shortcut?
it's fair. It's fair. Like we were working with a client a couple weeks ago, actually in California. We were working with the Oakland A's, and we were talking about this, and they're going, "Well, we got this data," and we actually started making calls in the sales training, just flat out cold calls, and people aren't like, "Hey, don't you want the direct line to these folks?" And I'm like, "No, not really." I said, or rather, they're B2B calls. I said, "Let's kind of go in and get transferred to finance and get transferred internally." I said, "They know you're coming in if you call directly." And I think a lot of these cheats are causing the salespeople to cheat because they want to pre-qualify everybody before they sell to them. But ironically enough, the sales process is what qualifies people. It's creating an opportunity where one didn't exist. You actually have to bring them through the sales process at times.
Yeah, but man, I got a Snapchat channel. What's this calling stuff?
What's that?
You mean I can use this thing to phone call somebody? I thought I just hit them up on Snapchat.
Ironically enough, every once in a while, well, you're paid. Look, you're paid to get in the door, and I don't want to play it too old school. I mean, I'm on social media. We have all the different sales enablement tools from HubSpot to Zoom Info to all those things. But at the end of the day, sometimes you are going to have to pick up the phone. Sometimes you're going to have to sell time. People aren't going to be ready to buy. You might have to actually convince them. All these tools, though, cause a massive cheat. And I think it does make you lazy. I think it really does. Back in the day, we'd have to actually cold call. And it wasn't as much the act of cold calling as much as it was getting confidence to walk in the door and face somebody. And right now, they look at a flat screen, and I think a lot of salespeople lose their confidence in some level.
Right. I know. I think in B2B sales, I don't think cold calling has really changed at all. I mean, it's the same human.
I concur.
Same human beings, same fears or uncertainties, doubts. I mean, like in your experience, are the executives you're calling on? I mean, how are they getting information? Are they even browsing social media?
If you can hear me, I lost you. You're froze. There you go.
Yeah, you froze up too. Can you hear me?
Okay. Oh yeah, now I can. We're good.
Yeah. So are these guys, at the bigger organizations, are they even accessible on social media?
I have a friend of mine that was working for a company called Legends, and Legends was owned by the Cowboys and Yankees, and it's a sales company. They also do F&B. And when she was working for him, she was trying to connect with the president of Chiquita Banana to possibly do a partnership. She direct inboxed him recently on Twitter, got in contact with him because I think more of what the message was, and she was persistent, but there was other touches there too.
Sure.
So yeah, you can argue that, but I think a lot, like me, I got everybody on LinkedIn.
Right.
Doesn't mean I'm connected with them though.
Right.
I want to get my content out and stuff like that. So I don't think some of them are, but I think you got to, especially B2B, you got to look at touches. If that makes sense. All your touches are valuable at some level.
Right. So is it still the multiple touches takes 5 to 7 impressions, 5 to 7 touches? Do you still have to get no 5 times to make the sale? I mean, are those things still holding true?
Well, if you what you just said is based off our research and the stuff that we just sold a call center a few years ago. We owned a demand generation call center where we did actually set appointments for various different sales industries. So we had to make a big investment in data. So we did a lot of stuff with insurance and branding companies and things like that. We'd set appointments for them. And you know what? All of our research, Wes, told us, because we were investing our money buying the data and getting the appointments, it was about 6 to 8 touches at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. It's 6 by 8 by 6 by 8 that we're seeing B2B. You need to make 6 to 8 contacts, right? And then those 6 to 8 contacts, it will take you 6 to 8 conversations with those contacts to get an appointment. Right. So it'll be through not just those people, but another 6 to 8. So we're in its various touches though. We're not seeing it as emailing or a great social media campaign. It's a blend. It could be a text if you had some direct lines.
Right.
Some places in some verticals that's really acceptable.
Right. I mean, I've dealt in some where, I had a client selling seafood, to distributors, and literally the person they're trying to reach is driving a forklift half the day, coordinating the shipments, out to the restaurants. And and they're retailers. So, I mean, they still exist, right? I mean, you got to get that person on the phone and they send in a fax PO.
Right.
So how do you find the right people? How do you train the right people? Like if that's the case, and that's an extreme case, but still, I mean, high level people are not twiddling their lives away on social media on their iPhone.
No, you're right.
How do you get your people tough enough, to pick up that phone and stay after it, basically be analog in a digital world?
Well, so a lot of our business, 90% of our business is with professional sports teams. So if you go to our website or in the book, you would actually see that exec after exec of pro sports teams, they're our client base. We do business with about 60% of them. So the business of pro sports could be like the Clippers are probably not far from you, a good client of ours. And they bring these salespeople in at a very young age. It's almost like a Moneyball concept. So they hire these B2B sales reps right out of college. And then they train them and they move them up to an AE, then ultimately either into management or they may become sponsorship salespeople. So that's the big ticket item. That's the naming rights, the big negotiated items, scoreboard sponsorship and things like that. But your suites and stuff are really expensive too. So what sports teams actually do is they kind of follow, it's interesting, almost like a minor league program where they bring them in, they develop them. And basically, if you think about it, Wes, they kind of still play a pretty old game of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's survival. Like they got that younger group pressing on the next group that presses on the next group. So you could, by motivation or manipulation, you're going to get these people either tough enough to prospect or they're going to weed themselves out. Interesting enough, they only keep one out of three people will stay 5 to 7 years, and they're the people that rise up. So they actually, and you were talking to, with the gentleman from Patient Pop earlier, how do you make them tough enough? Well, there's another side to it. So like in our business, we're really big believers in actually profiling the salesperson or assessing them. And there's a couple ways to do it. And we're not like, we're actually into looking at how fast somebody can run the 40 at the end of the day. So do they have so for instance, one of the things that we measure for prospecting is, can they qualify with a SWIFT level of interest? So if they can't do that, that means get you on the phone, get you interested enough from a prospecting standpoint, or are they only good if you give them a lead? Right. So you got to be able to look at that, because you today in B2B, you have to hunt and farm. You got to kind of be good at both, because you're going to have to cultivate and keep calling on some folks till you finally get in the door, or you're going to literally have to hunt. And so that's either can be taught and it can be hired. So are they tough enough? Do they have the skill set? So bottom line is, if my job every day was to change light bulbs, right, and I was 6'7", well, it might be a little easier for me. But if I was 5'9", I might need a ladder. So you can give people a process, but then you got to look at the other side. And I heard you talking about on your last podcast. Look, do they have the grit to get it done?
Right.
Are they gritty enough? Are they at the bottom enough of Maslow's hierarchy that, look, they need a job? I think what we have done is we've sold millennials way short.
Right. Because
if you watch Good Morning America, you would think, like, this new crop of salespeople are just soft and they want to, eat s'mores and hold hands and sing Kumbaya all day. Like, I actually don't agree with that. I think a lot of millennials are narcissists. They love score. They take pictures of themselves and snap it. I mean, any group of people that does that.
So do 30 and 40 and 50-year-olds.
Well, yeah, that's true too. But bottom line is they're pretty, like my sons are millennials. They stay up all night playing Fortnite. They're competitive. They're chirping at each other, right? I think today, though, if you're not willing as a sales manager or sales leader to give instantaneous feedback, I think you're going to struggle, because the new crop of salespeople want to know if they're doing well, if they're not doing well, and you got to equal it out on both sides.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just a cop-out overall, to lump, whatever, 50, 60 million people together. It's just –
I agree.
I mean, I see issues with 30 and 40-year-olds, people bringing drama to the workplace, or they think they're all that in a bag of donuts, and their past. I always tell people, hiring a salesperson is just like a mutual fund. Past results are no guarantee of future performance, right?
All right. So let me give you, that's actually such a good example. So about 5 years ago, we were testing these assessments with the San Diego Padres. And the VP at the time, we sat down for a breakfast right at the Omni near Petco Park there. It's the best ballpark in the country because it's so pretty. And we'd just done these round of assessments, and we sat down with the VP and his directors on the ticket side of the business. And he looked at me and he said, Lance, I just want to let you know, I think your assessments are garbage. I'd never met the guy before. And I go, well, Jared, and he's now, Jared Dillon's currently runs Tampa Bay Sports and Entertainment for the Lightning in the Amalie Arena. And I go, well, Jared, we've never met before, but I don't know if this is a great way to start off. And I go, why do you say that? And he goes, because you have one of my best guys ranked really low in skill set. And I go, okay, what's that mean? And he goes, he's one of our best guys, but you're saying he's not all that skilled. I said, can I ask you a couple questions? And he goes, yeah. I said, well, is he your number one guy, or is he like 3, 4, or 5? And he goes, he's probably closer to 3 or 4 or 5. I said, okay. I said, does he come in early, stay late? He goes, he's the first one in, the last one to leave. I said, last question, hate to lose or like to win more? He goes, he freaking hates to lose. I go, all right. I said, so skill set does not equal success at all. You can be the most skilled person in the world, but not very successful. So fast forward, this guy is the last one promoted out of the group. His name is Joel Adams. Joel finally gets promoted. The Cleveland Cavaliers hire him as an inside sales manager. 2 weeks later, LeBron James comes back from Miami. They basically go to the sales crew. We don't really need inside sales right now because you can imagine tickets were moving out the door. Joel stays for a few more months, is hired by the Miami Dolphins in a director position. About a year later, he is diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. He has a tumor in his head the size a little bit bigger than a golf ball. He goes into what should have took an 18-hour surgery, comes out in 12 hours. He's back to work in about 3 months. We're doing some training down, and he goes, hey, Lance, can you tell? I go, tell what, Joel? He goes, can you see it on my face? I go, see what? He goes, is one side of my face drooping? I go, and I'm always been hard on Joel. I go, dude, if you didn't point it out, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I wouldn't be able to even tell at all. And I said, how do you feel? He goes, I get a little tired midday. So about 2 o'clock, he's getting tired. I said, Joel, you could probably teach this class. Why don't you just roll? Well, let me tell you something. Joel now is a director with the Clippers, the LA Clippers. Joel's not, and I write about him in my book, Joel's not this most skilled guy in the world, but he's gritty. See, but we can't teach grit. We can't teach attitude control and perseverance. They're all things that are unteachable. But like you said, we're not gonna group a bunch of people together and find if somebody's gritty. There's gritty folks everywhere, every generation, every demographic.
Yeah, I know. It's I have degrees in geography and meteorology.
I love it. I love it.
I don't
know which one I like better.
And I was always the least experienced, in a career field, the youngest, and would always get it done because I would just get it done.
Right.
Dog with a bone. It's like, no, I'm calling tech support one more time. We're going to figure this thing out.
Right.
As I got older and having a family, it's like I got a wife, 7 kids, and a freaking dog that likes to eat everything under the sun. They like to eat, man. It's like, They don't care if I'm having a bad day. I got to figure this thing out and make a sale.
Well, that's the interesting thing. And I was talking because we were at Madison Square Garden last week doing sales management work, and I was talking about the difference between motivation and manipulation. And I said, you're having all these contests and you're doing all this stuff. I said, at the end of the day, though, we do all this stuff with millennials to make them feel that they belong. But at the end of the day, you guys that have succeeded, you had to survive first. And that's exactly what you're saying. Like, I'm motivated by my survival first, then providing security. Then I'll worry about if I belong. Right? Yeah. So, no, well said. Well said.
So on your question earlier about, I think it was Joel, does he hate to lose or love to win? What is better? Like, if I'm recruiting salespeople, what aptitude is better?
I don't want anybody to take this out wrong, but we see thousands of salespeople in multiple industries. All my trainers do. And the one thing that's consistent between that we see when we measure an elite salesperson with a group, because we identify those folks as not being one-hit wonders, they're the folks that don't actually think they're going to sell everybody. It's usually the average people that think everybody's going to buy from them. They're prisoners of hope. They're poos, right? The elite salespeople just inherently know they're not going to sell everybody. That's why their pipelines are usually bigger. They're usually 3x to 5x. And I actually think it's hate to lose more than like to win. I'm not saying they don't like to win. I just think take this wrong. I think they're donkeys. I think at the end of the day, there's a bloodline of donkeys out there, and donkeys are very noble animals. They're also stubborn. And so they don't like, there is this essence of not liking to lose. Mm-hmm. And I think that's heavier than just spiking the ball. But it goes back to what we said about Joel, right? There's a certain level of grit that some people have and some people don't. Look, no matter what anybody says, sales is hard today. You would think with all the sales enablement tools, all the marketing automation, there'd be less salespeople now. They told us for years sales was dead. There's more salespeople now. I have more salespeople in my company that sell training. I worked for Dale Carnegie Training for years and owned several of their franchises in the Midwest and in Philadelphia, and we sold in 2010. And I look at now my peers that still run Dale Carnegie operations, they have more salespeople now than they've ever had. You think it'd be easier. We in our training business comparatively so, the amount of people we have in business development is equal to the amount of people we have that train for us. It's almost 50-50 split at this point. Because it just takes a lot of lift to get it up in the air. Almost, and I would say even our trainers, and I think you asked the gentleman from Patient Pop this earlier, the ratio of salespeople, and I was thinking about that to how many people, I think he said he had 25%.
25%?
Yeah, and I would say in our business, we've grown we're growing at about 25% a year, but I would say all of our instructors that are on site, so I have two that are on site this week, one down in Nashville at a company called Advent and another one with Top Golf. And our instructors get compensated to bring meat to the table. So I'm looking at our business. I was like, I think it's about 50% of the people sell that are doing something to develop the account, maybe not just gain access, because it's like your point earlier. It's you have to have that level of grit because it's just harder to sell anything today. And you know what? The other thing too is because buyers actually have access to as much information as we do as sellers. That's a big problem for salespeople.
Yeah, I always bring that up is that, 20 or 30 years ago, we were the gatekeepers of the knowledge.
Yes.
Now we're the Sherpas, right? We're the guide helping them sort. Basically, the customers coming in here with their hands full, right? Just crap spilling over spreadsheets, PDFs, webinars, free trials. And they're like, help me pick one.
I love that analogy, the Sherpa. I think that's outstanding. That is well said.
They're just lost. And salespeople, the roles, like when we engage maybe has changed a little bit, but
yep.
That's what I think. Yeah, I think we're more needed than ever because everybody's so confused. Their laptop has 37 tabs open. Their iPhone has 27 tabs open, plus all the social media. And they're in a LinkedIn group saying, which CRM should I buy? They're on Facebook. Which CRM should I buy? They Google, what's the best CRM? A friend of mine up in Boston, he's working with a client. They have fully installed and demoed 6 CRMs in the last 12 months.
Wow.
I'm like, dude, just pick one. You'd literally be better off picking the wrong one and going all in and just making it work than testing 6 and still not knowing.
Well, the average person looks at 3 to 6 free preview or 3 to 6 reviews before they download a free app. Right. So we're so used to doing homework at this point, like you said, and we're testing all this stuff out or we're seeking all these opinions. And the role of the salesperson has changed. Like you said, it's almost like a triage at this point, or Sherpa, like you said. And if I hear the word relationship one more time, I'm going to throw up. Like, you got to have a good relationship with people. I said, well, having relations with people, sometimes a dirty word too. I said, the thing you have to have with people today, I think, is rapport. because relationships and outcome rapport, I can have rapport at a barista at a Starbucks at the end of the day. So I got to be able to connect with people because I can be more persuasive if I have rapport, and then I got to be credible, and then I can yield trust, right? Or I can influence. And I think bottom line is, if you can't connect that way first, it's going to be really hard to give advice, because I got to be able to get you as a buyer to tell me what you already know and not invoke some kind of negotiation with you. Mm-hmm. So, because you probably have done some homework, and who knows if your information's right. Yeah. So we don't hold the information. It's a different sales job than it's been in the past.
Yeah. Well, and you got to be willing to dish it out and take it. So recently, I've done work with Infusionsoft for 11 years, and they just rebranded. They came out with a scaled down version. And as soon as they did, another competitor, and so they just announced the new name, and the competitor had an ad ready with the new name. But then they linked to a comparison page with old data, right? Basically doing, Ford versus Chevy kind of thing. And the data was wrong. The prices were wrong. The nomenclature was wrong. And I took them to task, man, all everywhere: LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And I'm connected to the CEO, and I kind of forgot I was. I haven't done much with him. We just connect online. He's like, "Why you do this to me instead of just call me?" I'm like, I didn't want to say, I kind of forgot who you were, but it was like, I'm like, dude, because I said in the post, you're either lazy or dishonest.
Right.
There's no two ways about it, because the name was brand new. So this is like,
you had afterthought.
6 minutes old.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt.
So if you're going to cast stones, man, make sure you're not in these glass houses. But because there's so much noise out there and confusion. Because because I guarantee you, somebody saw that ad, clicked on it. So, oh yeah, the other Infusionsoft's no good. I'll go with you. It's like, maybe that's the right decision, but for the wrong reasons.
Right.
Well,
think about what you're saying too, because a salesperson now, if you're not taking, no matter where you're in pre-qualifying or qualifying somebody, you almost have to take time in the sales process before you start anything to go, tell me what you know or don't know. What's your perception? My favorite one was, what's your perception of us? We were doing some things for the Golden State Warriors, and they're building that new stadium over in San Francisco, or the new arena. And the problem when somebody launches a new stadium, there's a lot of opinions out there. There's a lot of pieces written between Barstool Sports or Sports Business Journal and the regular papers and stuff like that. So everybody has an opinion. So before we actually would get folks to walk through their preview center, first question is, hey, good, bad, and ugly, what do you know about the stadium? Like, same thing with the new LA Stadium project right there at the airport, right? Same thing. You have people coming in looking to buy multi-million-dollar suites or some premium seating. You actually have to find out what those people know. And that's in any sales process, whether it's insurance, whether it's financial services. If you're not spending time there, because then it's almost, what it's like, Wes? It's like a Waze app, if you think about it. Like you got to decide, you got to know where you're going, but you got to decide that based off of fog, roadkill, traffic shifts, which way you're going to go at all times. And that's what makes it hard about selling today. So not only do you have to be gritty, like we talked about before, but you got to know the difference between chess and checkers. You can't just play a checker game anymore. You actually know each piece is going to cost you something, right? So you're going to be smart that way.
So, I grew up in the South, and you're talking about roadkill. You know how many Aggies it takes to eat a possum, right?
No. How many?
3. Because, one's got to do the eating, and the other 2 have to look both ways for traffic. But I digress.
You do, but it was funny.
All right. So you're well established in your industry. You've got top named clients. But let's say, in the next 90 days, let's say you close 10 more big accounts. How many of those would be like outbound, like your team, your folks knocking on doors, getting your foot in the door, versus a referral, or they know you by name and reach out to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we run with a philosophy. We're a sales organization before we're a training organization. That's number one. Even when we owned our Dale Carnegie operations, we always had more salespeople than anybody else because it's instruction drives production or your production drives your production. So we're outbound first. Out of 10 deals, probably 80% of them are going to come from my salespeople. 2 will come from a referral, but we're pretty strict with how we run our offense that way. So we run a core philosophy of a third and a third and a third, and I'll explain it to you because I think this is really important how we manage. A third of our pipeline will buy from us in the near future, 0 to 6 months. A third of our pipeline will buy from us, let's say 6 to 12 months, and a third will never buy even if we just sold them $1 for 90 cents. Right. So the hardest part that we do from a sales management perspective is our folks have to have a 3X pipeline to go at all times. That's minimum standards, just because it falls back into that third and a third and a third. So we're constantly pushing the needle, and we have a 90% pitch rate once we hit that second meeting. So most of our first meetings, 90% of them go to 2, and then we know a second meeting, then we know they're in serious play. So I would say 8 out of 10 are outbound, and we are very specific about that offense. If you can't, and the hardest thing for us theory wise, because we're selling, what's training? It's you're selling pretty expensive air at the end of the day, right? That's a lot of what we do. We run internally with the philosophy that training's important but seldom urgent. So everybody knows.
Tell me that again.
Training's very important,
okay,
but seldom urgent.
Oh, gotcha.
So we operate with that philosophy. So my salespeople are constantly push. And you know what? In our industry, we'll compete against some ankle biters, some low, people that are have some courage and maybe a flip chart. We try to pose ourselves against the bigger players. So when we look at this, last year we were named by Selling Power magazine as top 20. First year we ever went for it, top 20, honorable mention, top 20. But we look to compete in that space with the Miller Hymans of the world, the Richardson Groups, the SPIs. They're the big. We're not even close. They're the big players. So we have to be really specific how we run that. But that's a great question.
So, yeah, you're talking about training's important, but seldom urgent. What do you do with a company? Because I think a lot of times they are hesitant for sales training specifically, because they know deep down they got a bunch of dogs. They got a bunch of turkeys on the team. They're like, I don't want to invest in these people. I got 10 salespeople, 2 are worthy of investing for sure. 3 or 4. It's fine. I don't mind, but man, I got like 3, 4, 5 that are just, I don't want to spend enough. I don't want to even buy their coffee.
Right.
And like, that's probably what's holding them back. And that's true in any organization, right? You always have high performers, low performers, but I mean, what do you do when they do have bad people and that's the reason, but you still got to train them?
Well, a duck's a duck, right? At the end of the day, if you got a duck, you're not going to make a duck an eagle. It just pisses the duck off. Right. So it's just not like you said. So our first step always, and we're just big believers in the verb of assessing. So we like to assess skill set. We don't like to assess. We're not into the personality traits because you can't change it. Like if you're an introvert, you're an introvert. You're just not, it's your hardwiring. So we want to look at, do the salespeople see the gaps? There, you can train things. Like I can teach somebody how to ask questions. They're not going to be as good as somebody who's intuitively can do it, but I can give you a process and you can get by, right? We can work on bedside manner. Some of those things are taught. You got some really smart doctors that have sucky bedside manner. We can work on people skills. So our goal is to go in to give that the decision maker, whoever owns a P&L for sales, say, look, here's an assessment of your people. Here's a talent audit. And we feed it back and we kind of give them a heat map of where they're good or not. And that either confirms or substantiates what they already have. And then we and that's kind of where we consult first. And then we put a process in place, right? And there are times when we come in and do our assessments that the VPs or the directors, they feel better because it's confirmed that they do have some folks that aren't that good. But on the flip side, they also see some people that have really high skill sets that aren't performing at all. because they can run the 40, but they're just not doing it. Well, then they have a management or a leadership issue, or somebody just doesn't care. So we either confirm or deny some of that stuff, and that's part one. And you don't have to move to part two with us, but we're going to give you a playbook that says, here's what you're going to have to train on. 9 times out of 10, when we give them that blueprint, though, they'll go with us. And I'm not trying to pitch our service as much as I'm trying to say, listen, for any leader out there, you have an opinion of what you think your salespeople are, either by their performance or their attitude, but there's other ways to show that person what they're good at.
Right.
And a lot of times you got to get that mirror and show those folks, because salespeople, like leaders, grossly overestimate their skill set. They just think they're way better than they are.
Yep.
Right. So I think you got to be using tools to look at your people, or to convince them to show them another angle. And right. I don't think we do enough. And there's wonderful things out there today that haven't been there, forever, that is new to show these people a way to go, and then give them the information they need to succeed.
Amen. Well, usually I'm a little more elegant in ending this, but we had a little technical difficulty.
No doubt.
We will wrap this up. I got one more interview coming up, but I do want to give you another shout. So it's the website is Tyson with an O, right? TysonGroup.com.
Yep.
And I'm linking as well to your evaluation right there on the top right. In the show notes, we'll link right to the evaluation. And what do they get in that? What is that evaluating?
Yeah, it's just that evaluation is kind of like assessing themselves, like asking some questions like, are your salespeople good at this? Are you good at this? And
is it for management or for individual producers?
You can answer it either for management, or an individual producer can get there and can do the same thing by the way the questions are posed. And then from there, we can maybe give you some advice.
Sure. Okay. And then I link as well to your book. So Selling is an Away Game, Close Business and Compete in a Complex World. Very cool, man. Well, Lance, thanks for coming on the show and talking a little football before we started.
No problem. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks for your time, Wes.
That's some good stuff right there. I don't care who you are. LinkedIn ain't selling, huh? Do you hate to lose or love to win? So many little nuggets in there. Motivation versus manipulation. We're a sales organization before we're a training organization. I love it. You got to get after it. You got to stay true to your roots. Work on your bedside manner. Right? So many good things. Check out his books. I link to them on every episode. If somebody's got a book, I link to it. And it's an Amazon affiliate link. I think they pay me 18 cents. I don't know. But hey, every little bit counts, right? 360-something episodes. A lot of people have books, link to them. That all adds up. So if you're going to buy it, please visit his link, or his episode on the page, and then click on the book and order it. And then, but otherwise, be sure to check out 30daysalesgrowth.com. Come on, do yourself a favor, invest in yourself. You'll be glad you did. Now my wife is walking in with red beans and rice. So I'm going to end this podcast now. All right, but hey, subscribe, leave a 5-star review, share this with your friends and your family, not your enemies though. Now go sell something.